Welcome to Sacred Sovereign Embodied Healer. I'm so looking forward to moving through this in a new way this next year. This is the Embodied Healer mentorship that we've done before, and it has received an upgrade. And I love how this is being interworked with our livelihood within ourselves and our relationships. What is different about this mentorship this time is that there is space for you and a partner to move through this. So I'm going to dive into everything that this mentorship offers in guidance and support for your sacred sovereign embodied healer journey. It is an 8-month program, so it runs from the end of August to the end of April next year. So, with all of this in mind, we are really coming home to your body, or you are coming home to your body. We are coming home within ourselves. We are really integrating the soul, body, mind, emotions, and energy of ourself. And what we are really navigating is our body technology and our soul essence. So when we start to enter this communion within and curate harmony within and start to learn the intelligence of the body, right? All these 5 bodies, that the soul, body, mind, emotions, and energy, and how they interwork together, we can create congruence and move towards creating harmony and access all of our faculties that create a heart-centered, embodied living practice, really, daily essence, and the support that is really necessary to move through our lives and through our rites of passage and remain whole, or move through the channels of the rites of passage and reclaim our wholeness. So the understanding that we are going to be delving into, we have 8 different philosophies that we're going to be moving in with inspired information, the divine intelligence of that we hold and house within. All of this information is accessible to everyone. It is the intelligence of the body, the intelligence of the soul, the mind, emotions. When we can navigate this understanding, then we can start to unlock our empowered method and unlock our personal, authentic gifts. So we are going to be moving through, number 1, the embodied energy anatomy. And this is the physical resonance authority on an energetic interplay of masculine and feminine energy and how it is responsive in the nervous system. So the nerve bundulas and the energy points and reconciling authority and these embodied energy anatomy points with our beliefs, with the nature of creating flow. So we're going to get into the embodied energy anatomy 101 and really the authorities of our energy anatomy. This helps us really start to navigate the body and mind, subconscious mind communication network. And then number 2, we are going to be moving into the embodied healing blueprint. So this is the spiritual guide of that, what we know to be compassion, love, forgiveness, wisdom, and all these things, and how we move through a soul reclamation, trauma reclamation back into a regulated nervous system, back to wholeness, and the fundamental healing blueprint that we can meet ourselves at with compassion, and then know a step-by-step healing integration method that covers the whole chemical response required for healing. Because all of these things are molecules that the body must create to create new neural pathways, to open the fascia, to start to experience something other than our cyclic looped nature that is based on possibly trauma or just untruth. And that brings us to the emotional energy anatomy. So we have the authorities in the body and each energy point of emotion, and we start to navigate our emotional molecular authority. And we are able to do this with this understanding of the divine embodied healing blueprint and our energy anatomy. We can start to regain just even an understanding of how to feel through. So we're coming into the sovereign energy anatomy and what that is, how it functions, how the embodied energy anatomy creates the sovereign energy anatomy when we have the mind, body, and emotions starting to interplay together in that way to create a more sovereign state of being. And then number 5, we have the empowered movement anatomy. So this is where we are really accessing the physical embodiment of what empowerment feels like in the body, in the nervous system, in the fascial communication and highway of the soul into the body. And what this does is it creates in this understanding and in this learning experience of the empowered movement anatomy, we work on creating almost a muscle movement library for the body to start to trust into. And when we've created this foundational library of core stability to create safety in our mobility, then we can take that and apply that to a dedicated somatic movement sacred practice. This is where we get into staying within our boundaries and building trust within and allowing our nervous system and our somatic healing, the body's intelligence of how it wishes to unwind, to trust our integrity of movement so it can move us into unfurling the fascia and creating neurodynamic feedback that we will be able to function in and not be overwhelmed by. And that leads us into the body communications as well. A part of this is learning how to listen to the body and assert choice and find choice and start to move into a will reclamation, which will is life force energy, a will reclamation with the body and the way that we communicate within ourselves, between the mind, body, emotions, and energy and soul. And then all of this brings us into the authentic soul body mind sovereignty. And the beautiful piece that's new this year is the initiatrix aspect. So these two kind of go hand in hand with how we are really integrating all of this information. So initiatrix came in like a beautiful gateway last year and this April. So initiatrix is the divine feminine blueprint. And so when we go into energy anatomy, we do talk about how our energy anatomy is consciously gifted in a specific way in the feminine blueprint and consciously gifted in an energetic way in the masculine blueprint. So yes, we house chakras, the divine essence of the blueprint and how these energy points function and operate are differentiated between men and women. And this is what can get very lost in our chakra intelligence blueprint and start to create, right? We have like the Kundalini awakening and that bursts through and blows our system out, and there's a recovery phase. This occurs when we are not in our embodied blueprint and working in integrity with that. So if we can actually learn what it is to house masculine energy and feminine energy, which both men and women do, but allowing it to participate in the unique divine essence of the divine feminine blueprint and the unique divine essence of the masculine blueprint. This is where we learn how to be in harmony within ourselves and move into honor of the divine feminine and sacred sovereign service of the divine masculine, and vice versa. So, how this is for the initiatrix aspect of this, we are looking at for the feminine, the initiatrix, and for the masculine as the activator, the activatrix. So, these two learnings and coming into expansion of our being within the sovereign integrity, it is very much so the essence of the return of the divine feminine embodied on the earth and the return of the sacred sovereign masculine as well. So this is really coming into an understanding of honor, how to meet our counterparts in honor. So this is going to affect every relationship we have. This is going to affect really the nature of how we receive resources and manifest and bring into fruition. All of these things will be affected. And so that is the newness of this year, is really coming online to the gifts of this embodied authority and it in a higher state of wisdom. So that helps us move into creating, and we go into like the ebb and flow and moving into that authentic soul, body, mind sovereignty. And that comes through either the masculine blueprint or the feminine blueprint. So a big part of this, moving into the heart and soul. So when we are able to navigate our life's experiences with our whole self, we are able to gather our faculties across time and space into the present moment for reconciling ourself back to wholeness. This is my definition of being embodied. And an embodied practice is a constant regeneration, a constant willingness of the soul and body integration. And this is where we get into all the understandings of what these modules are going to be moving us through, is to help facilitate us to move in our own unique, authentic ways that we process our life, our specific process of trauma to wholeness, our soul reclamation, our will reclamation, and returning to this state of homeostasis. So in every single person, at the heart of our being, lies the empowered healer. So this is the authority of the heart. And this is wisdom. When we have our whole heart participating, we have the wholeness of our blueprint online. We have our Taurus field up. We are emanating into the world and affecting our world. So when we venture inward, we navigate into our depth with the blueprint of empowerment. And this encourages forward through the victim being able to light the way through instead of getting lost within ourselves and in an emotional cyclic loop, really. And it helps us move in towards a state of sovereign being. So the power of the body to facilitate our compassionate healer and awaken us in our rites of passage, that is our birthright of wholeness. This is in the soles of the feet. It's in the divine right of the heart. So this is a very foundational construct of this mentorship, is really moving into understanding so that we can meet ourselves through. So we look at divine right. Our soul emanates and we are upheld by our values, and we move through rites of passage, as we move through our life's experiences and discovering new values. This is how we become more responsible, become more in authority through our rites of passage. So our divine right is our soul's divine right to be embodied in choice through the law of free will to choose. So our divine right is our soul's divine right to be embodied on this earth and move in that authority. Our birthright is our right to connect fully and completely to source energy on this earth and create on this earth, and to receive everything we need for our worthiness to be intact, to be supported in our wholeness, and for our value to be innate. And here, when we have this wholeness, which is the opposite of trauma, we are ready to receive support and being upheld by earth source energy, which once we claim it becomes our life force energy, and it empowers our will to create in the body. So we're coming into this sovereignty. Like when this is upheld, we are able to connect to the wholeness of our auric field, our values, and be upheld and move through life situations as a rite of passage and cultivating more authority, so that our rites of passage do not traumatize and break us, but we move through them complete and more fulfilled. So we're coming into soulmates movement and the body integrity of living, mind and matter in living, intuitive flow, living in that, and starting to honor the sacred self and how that is gifted within us to everything we interact with. So the gifts and intelligence blueprints the body houses as technology, it is meant to be activated and unlocked. So when we seek our innate, authentic potential and let that drive us, then we can start to bring ourselves into fruition and see what our values are and how to expand in our values. So our will must enter a rite of passage in questing its embodiment. So if we are not housing our will, and especially if we're not upholding boundaries with our values, right, then we are not in our willingness or sovereignty to choose and uphold ourselves. We will compromise. And so a big part of this learning is the loving boundaries aspect and how we uphold our soul integrity within the body and within our life. So there's the empowered somatics, that this foundation of values and really cultivating being upheld in this way. It empowers us to feel, it empowers us to receive information and feel through our intelligence. So we are going to be looking at the body, fascia, soul, intention, empowered movement, and the emotional alchemy, creation, our neural pathways, our mind awareness, thoughts, beliefs, vibration frequency, energy flow, consciousness, authority. We are learning to move with embodied intention and awareness of the whole self. So when we bring ourselves to curating a holistic style of dedicated movement, yes, to be empowered, but to also feel through what we are housing and creating chemicals to move through this life, this prepares our nervous system for the next rite of passage. We can show up and move through it because we have a system in place to navigate our emotions, our self-worth, our value, our safety. Our intelligence is able to receive information and not be bottomed out by it, but know how to transmute fear and be empowered and take in this information, the somatic information, so we can move agilely through our experiences. So this creates a whole different nervous system in experiencing our life. So opening to compassion within to move back into the integrity of our values so we can cultivate new values of empowerment, which we carry through the rest of our life. This is fundamentally soul building, character building, and authority building within the nervous system. And when we do this, we move into sacred gifts. So we become inspired in the heart space. And inspiration is a light of the heart. When we look at our gifts and how we move through, if we are wishing in our heart to even be expressive in a specific gift, we are inspired in that. So if we see something that inspires us to experience that, we get to set dedication, meditation, movement, the knowledge that we have, apply our daily self-fruition, meeting ourselves on the mat, coming into the invitation to journey inward for discovery in that courageous endeavor of the soul. This is what moves us into self-discovery and rites of passage. And how do we wish to apply? How are we going to apply this gift? Is it going to come through our being in the proper channels of a rite of passage so it can be integrated and wielded for your highest good and with wisdom? So, in this mentorship, really creating the containers of success for you to stand on and stand in that honors your sovereign sacred journey that is so unique, and that is really meant to inspire you to express, be expressed in your wholeness and your authentic being. And that comes through learning how to love ourselves into wisdom and wholeness and being authentic, and then finding what inspires our heart into more. So we go through a lot of channels of being open to knowing and opening in this sovereign channel that is within your soul anatomy and physical technology. The moment we allow what we know to be measured against wisdom, we open to redefining our truth into wholeness. And when we do that, we can see how the new values required apply and what those values uphold and the gifts that are required to be expressed through those values. So we go into a different state of knowing. Knowing is the body's beliefs. So when our truth is sourced in trauma, we know what is bound to be experienced within ourselves in that type of embodiment. Like we know with our body. We don't think. Like thoughts are thoughts. Beliefs are constructs of operation. Knowing is having a belief and having the proof and it being really locked into the body. So we are doing a lot of inspired requests and then being open to knowing and allowing ourselves to measure what we embody as truth, if it aligns with our wholeness and our empowerment and our experiences, and how those experiences are interrelated to the beliefs, and then start to measure and move into enlightened choice around it. So this brings us into when we come into this type of expression and movement through the experiences that we are holding in our body and our DNA, even on a genetic blueprint level and genetic expression. We get into epigenetics. This is where we call in the divine feminine blueprint, and we've moved through. There's a container called the call of expansion where we move into the divine feminine blueprint of authority within the bloodline. And we do that in moving through the mother wound and restoring divine feminine order. Initiatrix is this but the initiatrix houses all the archetypes of not just daughter and mother relation. It's the archetype of Lilith, Eve, Mary, Kali Ma, and life experiences, major arcana. So the embodied feminine houses the authority of love and divine feminine will. So when we choose to honor our sacred vessel and allow our root to be in a feminine design instead of a masculine design that we have in this construct of expression of only being housed in a patriarchal structure, then our divine nature, we are able to move the heart of humanity in this way. Like we are able to affect when we are actually in our divine blueprint in the feminine. So this requires a journey into the feminine rites of passage, really, and they have been in a lot of ways. I will not say every way, but a lot of ways that we've experienced thus far, really intercepted by the masculine and the dishonorable feminine. So there's not just toxic masculinity, there's toxic femininity. And yeah, we'll get into all that. Our gift of fruition in the divine feminine blueprint is the magnetism of embodied alchemy, of creation. And so the archetype of Lilith, I'll go through these briefly. Lilith is a sovereign divine feminine that honors and houses that sovereignty. We have Lilith. And then we have Eve, who is, right, was pulled from Adam, who was also sovereign in the beginning. And then Eve, right, we have the separation of masculine and feminine. And then they go into creation, co-creation together. Then we have Mary, who is the sovereign creator between the divine and the feminine. And then we have Kali Ma, which is the upholding of divine right and birthright, the protector of children who do not house the authority yet to be in this rite of, they have not gone through the rites of passage. So Kali Ma is the holding of the journey of major arcana, really, which is life's experiences that are meant to move us through rites of passage into more soul alignment and integrity and authority within the body and on this earth for co-creation and divine co-creation on this earth. So all of these archetypes come in together. We reconcile through all of them and move into an embodied experience with these archetypes within the divine feminine blueprint. And we move into reconciling the lower law of karma and moving into our birthright of choice, into the higher law of karma, which we learn first and foremost of how to love ourselves unconditionally, how to embody unconditional love. This is our call to expansion. This has to come first before we heal anything else in this world. We really start to understand our chemical process of unconditional love, which brings us into a constant state of forgiveness and moves us into the authority of wisdom. And when this happens, we are in our wholeness, and then we can connect from our wholeness into our sovereign experience, meaning that we start to work with the laws, the cosmic laws and the laws of this earth of being upheld in our divine intelligence of wisdom. So in this sovereignty, we are upheld not only in our wholeness, but we start to affect in our authority. And this is where initiatrix comes in, is when we are in an initiation process, an emanation, we are initiating everything around us into up-leveling. This happens in our intimate relationships. This happens in intimacy physically with men, with women, with men. So this moves into the sacred space of making love and showing up in this. And what is coming in October, that's going to be a theme for, since this is an 8-month container, we're moving through the divine feminine blueprint first, and then this divine masculine blueprint of honor, because this is what is really is being requested, is both men and women to show up in honor. And so when we can show up in honor within ourselves of the divine feminine blueprint, then we can move into sovereign service for the masculine and call them and uphold them in honor. And the call for the embodied masculine is to uphold themselves in honor, which, if we look at the channels of honor, these are values. These are respectable values. This is integrity. We look at the channels that honor can emanates from the crown to the root, and it upholds the spine. It is the spinal gateway, the jed of the body that emanates light. And when we house this within ourselves, we call in the masculine, the honorable masculine, and they move through rites of passage. Because when we look at co-creating with each other as men and women, we can be descendants from the seed of men, or we can be ascendants through the alchemy and initiation of women. So this is why this is so important, is because when we are sharing DNA and we are uptaking DNA through the feminine root, the divine feminine blueprint, root, energy point, if we are not in full authority, yes, then we carry on our generational, quote unquote, curses, generational karma, the lessons that have been bypassed, the epigenetic expression in our DNA blueprint, which is trauma, emotional, cyclic looping, all of these things. To be an initiatrix means that when you intake DNA and conceive, you are running the blueprint of unconditional love, of wisdom, of forgiveness, and you are dedicating it to fruition in its wholeness of state. And this is healing. This is healing this is making love and actually replicating in love. Why this is so incredibly astounding is because this changes on a soul level, on a bloodline level, how the DNA is going to be expressed as soon as insemination occurs. The DNA that's going to be a new expression, right? We have the feminine DNA, the masculine DNA. They combine and create a structural blueprint with epigenetics from both, but it's a completely new DNA. This, when we are in our chemical authority, this changes our lineage. So we are going to be diving into the divine feminine blueprint and an initiatrix, an authority, sovereign authority, and honor, and then the counterpart, the divine masculine blueprint, which is coming in. So that's going to be a real live experience, actually, that coming in in October and being pulled up in January of 2025. So we're going to be spending some time. So this is also why I'm really elated to have this mentorship be inclusive within partnership. So that being said, looking at the divine masculine sovereign blueprint and honor, right? This is looking at restoring. This is healing the mother wound of the masculine. This is healing the trauma of the masculine. This is healing between the masculine and feminine, the resentment, the displacement, the abandonment, all of the projection that occurs that really is meant to be first move through a rite of passage for men to be responsible for themselves. That's the first rite of passage that really in a lot of ways has been lost. But secondly, the initiation process of initiating men into their sacred honor of the feminine. And that happens in the sovereign service of sacred intimacy, of feminine authority. So here we really find and house, yes, our soul authentic sovereignty that creates a space to ignite our true sacred self and really that self-discovery process. So that being said, if any of this speaks to you, if you feel inspired or just have questions on any part of this, please feel free to contact me, and I'd love to answer any questions or explain more about any of the content. This was a very brief summary of everything we'll be journeying through in the next 8 months. So that being said, I am grateful for the ability to show up in this space and learn with you always and continue this journey of shared sovereign honor and allyship with each other. So much love. There's so much more.